This hour is brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office will get you taken care of.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Come on! Welcome aboard to Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary here on this Friday, February 7th. TGIF. Thanks a lot for joining us. Jim Coyle with you as always. Running mate Todd O'Leary right here, and Jake's keeping us on the track as well. Hope you've had a great week, and if not, we're going to put a nice cap on it for you. Lots to get to today on the program. Kevin Brockway is going to join us. Kevin from CNHI Papers, of course. Tom Brew also will talk to him as well. We got lots to talk about as Indiana prepares to take on Purdue in an absolutely game that has turned out to be a very, very important one right now. Todd Leary, this is going to have big implications in how this season goes for both these teams.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, or even a week ago, it looked like a lot bigger game for Purdue than it was going to be for Indiana. But in just a 3-game losing streak's time, it's just as big for Indiana, right, as I think it is for Purdue. So I mean, yeah, it's turned into a game that can, it can have some real big implications on not only seeding, but whether one team or another actually even gets into the NCAA tournament.
Well, it's funny you should say that, and you actually didn't know that I was looking this up, but per ESPN and the BPI, this game is much larger, looming much bigger than people think, and they say this is the second biggest bubble game left this season, per the BPI, the Basketball Power Index. VCU at Richmond on February 15th currently stands at number 1. The BPI slightly favors Purdue at 55% to win this game on the road. I'm just going to go back and say, it's like the net rankings and all the goofy stuff that they come up with. I mean, I don't see how that could be the case. I mean, Purdue has played so poorly on the road that it's just hard to imagine that that's the case. But they're coming off of those 3 wins they have at home by 29, and 36 points over, top 10 ranked teams or super high ranked teams. It's pretty incredible. I mean, but also like they're Jekyll and Hyde, not just losing on the road, but they've had some really bad losses. I mean, heck, they got beat by 20 plus against Illinois. But none of that means anything. This is a rivalry game. It's how you're playing today. None of those, I never follow. I know Archie Miller in the press conference today, I know he won't be talking about, Purdue's bad on the road. He's going to be talking about how good they are right now. They won their last road game against Northwestern. So he's not going to be looking at the long term of it. He's going to be focused on this game tomorrow. And, when you look at them line up for lineup, they match up really, really tough against each other. So it'll be a battle. Joe Lunardi currently projects 11 Big Ten teams for the NCAA tournament. I think that's one strong. That also does not have Minnesota in it, who's lurking in the first 4 out. 11 teams from the Big Ten would tie the 2011 Big Ten East for the most ever due to projected bid steals and cannibalization.
The Big East had 11?
Yeah, way back, when they were to beat the
when they
East.
Had, how many teams were in it at that point? When they had like 18
16
teams or something? Oh, was it? Well, that's not crazy.
But due to projected bid steals, at the end of the season, how those tournament wins and all that stuff.
Right.
BPI, it's a little more pessimistic, projecting 10 Big Ten teams, but I think that's maybe accurate. I don't know. We'll see what it gets in. In any event, this game has a significant impact on who gets in, on whether or not the Big Ten gets 11 or 12, because while Indiana currently has a much better resume than Purdue per strength of schedule, the Boilermakers are a much better team per predictive metrics like the BPI and KenPom. Due to Purdue's projected record versus Indiana's projected record, the BPI gives Purdue a better chance to make the tournament than Indiana.
with this game, and that's if there's a win. If Indiana wins, it projects that Indiana has a 71% chance of making the tournament. That doesn't sound really strong. If Purdue wins, it gives them a 91% chance of making the tournament. As opposed to a loss, it says as if Indiana loses this game, it gives them a 52% chance of making the tournament. And if Purdue loses, they still have an 82% chance of making the tournament. So obviously the Purdue has a lot riding on this game, and so does Indiana. But this could really just project Purdue into the stratosphere because, like you said, they have played poorly, really poorly at times. Indiana hasn't played that bad, but they've dipped down at the bottom some.
Right.
They just went just as bad. They can't lose at home. So this is another must-win game, I think, for both of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it and just the way that we word it, and it's not just us. I mean, you heard Dick Vitale yesterday on our show. He worded it the exact same way. But when you go on the road, you need to try to steal one here and there, which means you're probably not expected to win. And so, in my opinion, all the pressure's on Indiana. Indiana has to win. It's a home game. We say it all year long. You know, you have to protect the home court as long as you take care of home court. You know, if you win your home games, you go try to steal one or two on the road. And obviously that means this is a must win for Indiana. They've already lost one home game to Maryland in the Big Ten. They can't afford another home. They would have to do something crazy on the road. And we don't want to have to rely on that as an Indiana fan. So it's a bigger game, I think, from a pressure standpoint. There's more pressure on Indiana than I think there is on Purdue.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And these metrics, I mean, I know that these are numbers and projections, so this is not these numbers are not hard and fast.
Right. Well, they're not because you look at like Joe Lunardi. Joe Lunardi's predictions, I mean, they're not just guesses out of nowhere.
They're a starting point. They're a pretty good starting point.
They include the eye test, and the eye test isn't on the BPI and isn't on some of those other things. Those are strict numbers. And so when you look at the eye test, Indiana is ahead of Purdue in almost, I think in all of them, in 100% of the different. When you look at the seedings and you look at where they put Indiana, they're always seated higher than where Purdue is. So at the eye test, it bumps Indiana in front of Purdue. But a loss to them obviously would put them behind Purdue, in my opinion. And I'm sure in most of those people who do the prediction, Joe Lunardi and all of the Ken Palms and all the people who do the projections right now. You know, the thing for the NCAA, so they're going to come out Saturday with their, where their top 16 picks. And CBS is going to put out, what Clark Kellogg had told us on the show, they're going to come out with, their field of 68 if the tournament started Saturday. Well, the IU Purdue game won't have happened by then. So, they won't be basing it off of this game. So I'm sure Indiana will still solidly be ahead of Purdue at that point. But we'll see. Oh, Nelly. All right. Well, I mean, so, just to go along with what, everything that we're talking about in this game for Indiana. I mean, you look at the players and with the week off, Indiana should be more rested. Is that a great thing? I don't necessarily love that as a player. You kind of want to be in the swing of having game legs, and there's just a difference. You can't emulate. Practice can't be the same as what the speed is of a game. And so when you look at Purdue and you look at what, Purdue can do to a team defensively, I'm surprised their game hasn't traveled on the road better than it has. But it's been like a lot of teams across the country, and I think they lost me altogether. Oh, okay. Sorry, I think everything was gone. But when you look at teams that are struggling across the country, and you look at shooting the basketball and scoring the basketball, those are what teams have struggled the most with. And Purdue has struggled on the road. Purdue has struggled to make shots, and that's what's made them struggle. It's never really been their defense.
And so they're going to come in here defensively, and they're going to, I'm sure they're going to have a game plan to try to do what almost every other team has done and take away some of the inside play because, I think they probably feel kind of the same way that a lot of other teams have, and that if you take away Indiana's inside game, they're going to struggle to score from the outside. So it'll be a matter whether Indiana can make some shots, and if they do, I think Indiana should probably defend the home court, but I don't think that Jim's back yet. So we'll take a break and we'll come back after this. We got more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle Larry with you here on this Friday, February 7th, TGIF. Hope everyone had a great week. Heading toward the weekend, of course. Joined now by our good friend Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. Kevin, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Jim.
How's things been going for you, man? It's been a minute since we've had a chance to talk to you.
Well, as you know, Jim, pretty busy with between the football overlap and now into basketball season, and obviously a critical game for IU tomorrow against Purdue here to get the season back on track. You got a 3-game losing streak now, and you don't want it to. I don't think you want this to linger heading into February. If you have NCAA tournament aspirations.
Well, it's funny because Todd and I were just talking. I was looking at the BPI and the metrics that ESPN had out, that the importance of this game from a standpoint for Indiana, if they win or lose. And if they win, they only have a 71% chance of making the tournament. And if they lose, only a 52%, where Purdue, much higher either way. If they win, a 91% chance of making it and an 82% chance even if they lose. So a lot riding on this game for the Indiana Hoosiers, it looks like.
Yeah, Jim, and I think when you look at the strength of schedule, and that is something Indiana is 15-7, Purdue is 13-10, but yet Purdue, with its strength of schedule, might be in a little bit of a better position now because they played those tough teams during the non-conference. Now, Indiana did beat Florida State, they did beat Notre Dame, they did have Arkansas, who's playing pretty well in the SEC, but you remember those first 7 games. That was a pretty light schedule, a lot of 200, 300. 10-palm teams that were lower on the schedule. So I think it's important, certainly for Indiana to make hay. That being said, there are plenty of, tough games ahead in the Big Ten Conference. And I still think the goal is to get to 10-10. If you get there, you're going to be fine. And right now they're 5-6 and, but they're going to have to win some games. They're going to have to protect the home court for sure. And, maybe try to steal a game or two on the road as well.
Absolutely. Now, you have a nice piece out, changing the subject a little bit, still on basketball, but you had a nice piece came out on Damon Bailey's son, Braden, who plays down at Damon's alma mater, Bedford North Lawrence, just south of Bloomington. And ironically, his former teammate, Pat Graham, who went to Floyd Central High School where I went, but their sons play each other tomorrow. Pat's sons, he has 2 sons that play for Evansville Memorial, and they play Bedford North Lawrence and Braden Bailey tomorrow. So that's kind of ironic and timely with the piece that you had come out.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, and it was really neat, to not only meet Brayton but to meet Damon as well, who's coaching on that team as an assistant coach, and it's hard to believe it's been close to 30 years since that 1990 state title game, right, Jim? It's making us both old. 41,000 at the old RCA Dome at the Hoosier
I was
Dome,
there, baby. I was there for both games.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was just a long time ago and a record that has stood for a long, long time. And then to grow up in that shadow, it had to be difficult.
And for Brayton, sure. And Brayton, I think, apparently this year is trying to take on a little bit of a leadership role with the team. It's a fairly young team around him. A lot of players that came up from the JV squad, and he's handling it. I think the best he can, and handling those expectations, and he's got a couple of scholarship offers from smaller schools, and Western Kentucky has shown a little bit of interest at Division I level, so maybe there's a chance that he moves on and plays Division I basketball. But certainly, Damon's sensation, a guy who was an 8th grader and who was offered a scholarship by Bob Knight before he even played in high school, and set the Indiana State scoring record. I think for Brayton, as a member, certainly as a boys basketball player, I'm sure it certainly must be tough, to deal with those comparisons.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, your dad is the greatest schoolboy scorer and the greatest basketball state that there is, and he's been a name ever since he's been an 8th grader. So yeah, I don't know that there could be a more difficult situation to grow up in, if you want to be truthful.
Yeah, but Brayton seems like he's a level-headed kid. It seems like he's handled it pretty well, and it seems like he and his dad have a really nice bond that goes beyond basketball. They kind of fish and hunt together, and his dad, while he says he's a resource, Jim, is a guy that sometimes when they get home, when they're away from practice, they just do dad and son things, and just talk about life and not over blow them with basketball. It's pretty much just sitting around the table and Damon being a dad and Brayton being a son, and it's a nice relationship to see, and certainly Damon obviously had that with his two girls too when he was coaching them in girls basketball.
And Brayton's a pretty good ball player. I mean, he's not going to be. I don't think he's going to be a Division I player. I'm not sure. He may be on the lower end. I'm not sure, but I mean, you're not going to see him in Indiana. You always see fans say, "Hey, why not Indiana? Why doesn't Indiana offer him?" But he's going to play somewhere.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Brayton, he talked to me about in his game is his shooting. And in the game I went to, I don't even think I saw him try to attempt a three-pointer. It was all going to the basket. But he's athletic. He's got a good quick first step. He's got a nice little crossover dribble. He can, get around guys. He can draw contact. And he's a good rebounder, too. He's got good instincts on the boards. He passes the ball fairly well. I think it's just the outside shooting, really, which, as we know from covering Indiana, is a premium on perimeter shooting in college. That's something as a guard that you really need to develop in your game. As you get into, the higher levels of basketball.
Yeah, and now you got the tournament coming around. He's a senior now, right?
Yeah, he is a senior. Yep, he is a senior.
So you got the tournament coming around soon, and again, all those comparisons come around because I'll tell you, like I said, I was at those games that we talked about at the old Hoosier Dome, but leading up to Damon Bailey went to the Final Four 3 out of his 4 years in high school. So he was accustomed to making that charge, and I'm sure some pressure will be put on him in that regards, but not a lot.
Yeah, and interesting in talking to Damon a little bit about that era too, and how it was different in terms of I kind of asked him. I said, "What was it like to play in front of 41,000 people?" Thinking if there was any anxiety, nerves. And, he mentioned that time in the, late 80s and early 1990s. He said, "Hey, look, we were playing in front of packed gyms no matter where we went, whether it was 2,000 people, 6,000 people. I mean, there was always a gym that was full. So it was almost like, the players of that area were conditioned to that in terms of, just the passion for high school basketball in the state, that there were always big crowds no matter where they went. And certainly for a player like Damon, who, had that kind of following from being a player that was, offered a scholarship to IU as an 8th grader, was a guy that basically drew a crowd. So, I mean, he grew up with it and he knew it. And he, and he also talked about kind of the sense of urgency of that senior year of high school from, them knocking on the door and being so close and being in the state titles his 2 previous years. I think they really felt the need that year to kind of knock it down and get over that hump and win that state championship.
Yeah, Damon came before Romeo. So for those young people who think that these packed high school gyms didn't happen before Romeo came along, yeah, no, Damon did it a long time ago. And playing in the conference he plays in, the Hoosier Hills Conference. I mean, the Bedford North Lawrence's gym alone holds 6,000. You play in the Hoosier Hills Conference with Seymour, where the regional is. There's another 8,000. Jeffersonville, New Albany, they hold like 5,000. So yeah, they were always playing in front of big crowds. But 41,000, that was a big difference. But man, that was an electric time and just a unique experience. I mean, social media wasn't what it was then. So everything was really magnified on TV. And so when you saw these things, they were made even bigger because they weren't diluted with social media.
Yeah, it was obviously a different time and a different era, Jim. And it's just interesting to see. I guess when you walk into high school gyms today, you maybe don't have that you had maybe like 30 years ago in terms of that kind of crowd support. But hey, it's a different time, it's a different era, and probably I even asked Damon about that, and he even thought that maybe it's just more kids playing on the weekends, from 8 to 14, that are playing in their own travel league games, and the parents that are going with them. It's a lot different than it was 30 or 40 years ago.
Well, make sure you check out that article by Kevin there from CNHI Papers. Any particular place where they need to find that, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, they can find it on my Twitter account at Kevin Brockway G1. I have it posted there. Or you can go on the Anderson Herald Bulletin's website. It's up on there as well.
There you go. Indiana, big game this weekend. We talked about it briefly at the start. Purdue comes in. This is a big game, Kevin. I mean, Indiana, they have to win this game for numerous reasons. Number one, it's a home game. You can't afford to do that anymore. They've already given one up. But they're kind of mentioned as a bubble team. The more I read around people, Indiana is just not, even though they have a pretty good strength of schedule in the Big Ten, outside of that, they don't. And there's a lot of ambiguity in whether or not they're going to get in this tournament or not.
Well, I think they have to get back to playing well, first and foremost, right, Jim? I mean, I think since the Maryland game, I mean, what have we honestly seen? We've seen a team that hasn't been able to score 60 points on 2 games in a row. Now, it's been on the road, but, you're talking, one game that was a double-digit loss at Penn State and also a loss at Ohio State where, they were basically trailing by double digits for most of the second half of that game and, came back and made a 9-point game. So I think it's really, I think first and foremost, getting back to playing crisp. I think the energy level kind of waned that last week. And I know that Joey Bruck was sick and, Race Thompson being injured. That's affected their rotation a little bit. Archie Miller talked about that on his radio show on Monday. So maybe this week break will help them in terms of, just getting back to, being, playing with a little more energy, and effort, which is what they need to do to win. I mean, we know that this is, a team that doesn't shoot well. So they have to do those things. They have to rebound. They have to get to the foul line. And that's kind of their identity. And they have to really get back to that. It's important, starting on Saturdays.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Gene Katie's going to be in attendance. You've got the 1980 Big Ten champions that they're recognizing. So ESPN game, Dick Vitale's in the house. A lot of attention. A lot of questions. I mean, everybody's talking about the possibility of Bob Knight returning tomorrow. I haven't brought that up all week, and it's just there's so much going on this weekend. Just a lot of talk, man.
Yeah, and it'll be nice to see the 1980 team for sure. That was obviously, that and the precursor of the 1981 national championship team. I don't know if we'll see Isaiah Thomas either, right? I don't know if he's been back to Assembly in a minute, but he was on that team. But obviously, Randy Whitman and Mike Woodson and Ray Tolbert, some players that went on and had some NBA success. So. That'll be neat, and it'll be a charged, it'll be a charged atmosphere for sure. I guess this will be my first time covering an Indiana Purdue basketball game, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that kind of energy. But I think Indiana's got to be concerned. I mean, I watched that Purdue Iowa game on Wednesday night, and Purdue looks like they kind of got that second life when they came back and they beat Northwestern late in that game in 19 threes. They had multiple guys shooting it, and they're going to be coming in here with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and they should, because Indiana's lost, 5 straight to Purdue?
I guess that's the rivalry, right, Jim? It's kind of goes up and down, and certainly Purdue last year had Carson Edwards, so that made a huge difference, and they've had some really strong teams the last few years. Now, I think the jury is out as to whether this team is as strong as that. I mean, I think you would, I don't think this is a Purdue team that's going to go to the Elite Eight based on what I've seen. I think they still have some flaws, but certainly a team that's, got some talent and is starting to come around. It's interesting, a lot was, thought of Nojo Eastern, going into the preseason. Remember, all preseason, all Big Ten selection, and he's really struggled shooting the ball. Although he's done some other things defensively, but he hasn't, I think, progressed offensively the way they have liked, and they've actually played him off the bench a little bit. But Sasha Stefanovic, we know, is giving him shooting. Travion Williams is a load inside. Matt Harms is a really skilled 7'3" guy that blocks shots. So they have a lot of capable players on that team. I think it's just a matter of them kind of meshing and gelling and coming together, which they're starting to show of late.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Looking forward to it. I can't thank you enough for joining us here today, Kevin. Looking forward to it. Big game tomorrow. Looking forward to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with the physicality with Indiana. You got to crush the boards, play hard there, get the inside scoring, and Trace Jackson-Davis gets the line. And if you could do that, and maybe sprinkle in a few outside shots from Devontae Green and Al Durham, maybe you got a shot.
Well, yeah, we'll certainly find out. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, check him out. Check out that great article on Braden Bailey on his Twitter account too, Kevin. Thanks a lot, brother. We'll see you tomorrow at the game.
All right, thank you.
There's Kevin Brockway joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary on this Friday, TGIF. It is February 7, man. We are heading to the weekend. Indiana with a gigantic game against Purdue tomorrow at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. That's a 2 o'clock tip-off. 2 o'clock on ESPN. Dick Vitale's in the house with Bob Wischusen on the call. Don't forget, you know what that means. After the game with Todd Leary coming to you live from Yogi's, we'll be beginning the broadcast approximately just after 4 when the game should be concluding. As you can imagine, there is a lot going on. There's a lot of attention being paid to this game for lots of different reasons. Gene Katie's going to be there. He and Bob Knight are making an appearance that night at the Pacers game, apparently. So we'll see how that turns out. But Todd's going to be back with us here in this next segment, and we're going to talk more about that. So looking forward to all what's going on. But, man, we're expecting a really, really big show after the game tomorrow. We're expecting a lot of special guests to be on with us. The 1980 team, Big Ten champion team is going to be in town. But there's a lot of other players that are coming as well. So we're expecting a big and extended show. I'm not even sure how long we're going to go tomorrow. But make sure you're tuning in because it's going to be big. We got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with it right after this.
I'm the kind of guy who laughs at a funeral, can't understand what I mean, well, you soon will. I have a tendency to wear my mind on my sleeve. I have a history of taking off my shirt. It's been...
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Shotgun, oh yeah. Hey, little sister, who's your Superman? Hey, little sister, shotgun.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you on this TGIF Friday, February 7. Hope you had a great week. Big game coming up. Big game coming up for the Hoosiers on Saturday as they welcome in Purdue. Can you believe that baseball starts next week? Todd had to run an errand, by the way. One that he couldn't get out of. He'll be back with us. But Indiana baseball opens next week, man. It's crazy. Gabe Bierman, a name that you remember from last year, great kid from Southern Indiana, lost his father during the season as a freshman. Wow, and he's pitching. I mean, he was going through a lot. But, man, you talk about a great kid that grew up under some pressed times. But I had a chance to talk to Gabe the other day, and as they prepare to open the season next week. Let's hear what Gabe had to say.
That different? I mean, I was pretty comfortable from the start as soon as he came in. It's just like keeping that same drive all the time with him, just like communicating with him 24/7 about some of the guys that maybe are struggling. But we've been doing very good, and we've been working really hard, so we're ready.
Any sort of transition? I know last season you ended as more of a bullpen guy. This year, maybe looking to be more of a starter. Any sort of change in the off season with that?
Definitely a lot more work. Just like preparation, pretty much. That's it. Preparation. We've thrown a lot more in games, a lot more pitches, a lot more innings.
That's Gabe Bierman from actually he went to Jeffersonville, but from Southern Indiana, and at LSU too. Man, you talk about a tough place to start the season. Woo-hoo-hoo. On the road and at LSU, but it should be fun. That's next Wednesday. We'll have Jeff Mercer on the show, Coach Mercer, next Wednesday as the Hoosiers prepare to open the season. So looking forward to talking to Coach. That'll be his first appearance on the show. I mean, we've had him, of course, tons and tons of times covering them, but this is actually his first appearance on the show. Looking forward to that. Also, Indiana football getting through the signing day, whatnot. Tom Allen also met with the media. Let's hear what Coach Allen had to say.
Coach, obviously with the small senior class, you knew it was going to be a smaller 2020 class, but as it seemed to swell by maybe 1, 2, 3 spots here leading up to the February signing period, how did you and the staff kind of talk and congregate, make sure that you guys were adding, an extra 1 or 2 guys while still maintaining the quality of those guys that you brought in?
Oh, there's no question. That's a key, and you have those discussions all the time, and you're not just taking guys just to fill a spot just because it's there, because that, for me, you're always thinking ahead. We're thinking 2, 3 classes ahead of time and really going through, and it's a process that we're not where we need to be yet. But when you look at your roster in each position and where the departures are going to come by grade level, and to have a better flow there, we're still not in sync with that, from the past or for what we're inherited. And so I just still feel like it's a matter of getting, because you like to have it to where you don't want to lose, a whole group of guys at one time. And so obviously when you have a big influx of young men like we've had in the last 2 classes, the current freshmen and sophomores were such big classes. And so those guys are really predominantly our team right now. And so 2 years from now, there'll be a big departure. So just trying to, through different means, and that can be, even you start to get those numbers right through, getting some older guys here. We don't do a lot of that, but we do a little bit of that. And so, I just think it's roster management. You're just trying to always, think ahead, create the depth that you need for the current season ahead of you, and then always be thinking about the season next and the one after to be able to balance up your roster and get offense, defense, special teams all flowing in the same direction with the proper depth to be able to be where we want to be in the Big Ten.
So, a multi-part question, Coach. With the transfer portal becoming more popular, how does that affect your recruitment?
Coach Tom Allen met with reporters the other day for after the signing day. So that's what's going on there. Indiana honoring the Big Ten 1980 Big Ten champions tomorrow at the game. Ironically, playing Purdue, who in 1980 went to their last and only second Final Four in the history of their program. That's how long it's been since they've been to a Final Four. 1980. Can you remember back that far, folks? 1980. That's the last time Purdue sniffed a Final Four. Only the second time in their school's history. They've only been to 2. Just it just dawned on me when I was sitting there looking at that, reading that Indiana about the 1980 Big Ten champion. And then, of course, the following season, Indiana wins the national championship. Purdue doesn't have that they don't follow Big Ten titles with national championships. They do a good job of winning Big Ten titles, but that's kind of where it stops for them. They've had, 23, I think. They're leaders in the Big Ten, Indiana with 22, I believe. But Gene Cady is going to be in attendance in the game on Saturday as he is on his way to Indianapolis to the Pacers game that night as they are honoring Bob Knight and Gene Cady. So there's a lot of talk, a lot of chatter out there about Bob Knight coming back to Indiana on Saturday. We had that with the Ohio State game. Of course, that would have been a great game because that's where Bob Knight is his alma mater. It's where he played college basketball. Now you got Purdue, of course, the big rivals, and Gene Cady's going to be in the house. So there's a lot of talk, a lot of chatter, man, a lot of chatter. What do the peeps think? Hit us up on the text line, 812-269-6367. Tim did so. We talked about IU honoring the Big Ten champions. It says Louisville is honoring their 1980 NCAA champions Saturday. What's Purdue honoring? Well, nothing, but they did because they're not playing at home. But they do have that 1980 Final Four team that they can look at. Maybe they forgot. It's been so long that they forgot. Who knows?
Painter wasn't on that team, was he?
What's that?
Matt Painter wasn't on that team, correct?
I don't no, that was Joe Barry Carroll. I don't think he was. No, I think, that's just before him, I think. I think that's substantially before him. I think that's almost a decade before him. I can't remember exactly when he played, but I don't believe so. Joe Barry Carroll led that team. But, man, they got good. Again, this area wasn't basketball back then. You had Purdue making a Final Four, which was rare. You had Indiana winning the Big Ten title. You had Louisville winning the national championship. The next year, Indiana winning another national championship. There was a span of time. I'd have to go back and look at it again, but you can go back from, I don't know, this early 70s. From the early 70s and through the late 80s. That's 2 decades, folks. I believe there was a team in the Final Four from either Indiana or Kentucky. It's unbelievable. The run. You go back to the early 70s when Bob Knight first arrived in Indiana. Kentucky was good. Louisville was good. Denny Crum was in his infancy at Louisville. You still had Adolph Rupp at Kentucky. It was the end of the dynasty of the UCLA and the emergence of the rest of college basketball. Indiana went to the Final Four, of course, and then they had those great teams in 75, 76. You had Indiana winning it all undefeated in 76, Kentucky winning in 78, Louisville in 80, Indiana in 81. I mean, what a run. Woo! Need to get back to that, man. And the big key is getting back to that is Indiana. But right now, they need to worry about making the NCAA tournament. And to get there, that is going to go through this weekend. This is a must-win game for Indiana. They lose this game, they do not make the tournament. And the numbers I read earlier, according to ESPN BPI, if they lose this game, they give them only a 52% chance of making it. It's a coin toss. If they win the game, only a 71. Indiana has according to the BPI, ESPN's BPI, Indiana has a lesser chance of making the tournament with a win in this game than Purdue does with a loss. How about that? A little quieter without Todd's voice beaming back and forth. Sorry about that. I know it's a lot more enjoyable when you got both of us going back and forth, but that's kind of ironic, especially when you look at Purdue's numbers. Look at Purdue's records. They've got bigger losses, but they've got much bigger wins. Much bigger wins. Indiana's going to have to challenge themselves. They're just, as a team, forget about Archie Miller. I'm done talking about Archie Miller. This team has to decide to a man, do you want to play? Do you want to win? Then you need to do the things that you need to do to accomplish that. Whether that is take care of the ball, think, don't make sloppy passes, hit free throws, simple little things. Then those are the things that Indiana must do to successfully compete. Hopefully, we'll get that going. It is certainly going to be an opportunity for Purdue to do a lot of damage. Man, you talk about wrecking somebody's season. Purdue comes into Indiana and gets a win here. That would wreck Indiana's season. I think that would be the beginning of not making yet another tournament. It would be the embarrassment of losing yet another game. I think it's a 5-game losing streak right now to Purdue. Yeah, so that's a streak that they'd sure like to get rid of. You'd certainly like to see a turnaround for the Hoosiers. I mean, everybody wants to see a happier story. It's a lot more fun when you're playing at the end of the season and you have something to look forward to. And this team has the talent. There's no doubt about that. They can do it. We've seen it. We've seen them play well. They just got to get it back into their heads that they can and will play well. Hopefully that happens soon, right? How's your schedule? How's your season going there, Jakester?
My season?
Yeah, your basketball season.
Oh, there's no league or anything. We just play pickup. A bunch of old guys out there trying to relive our glory days and not doing it very, very well.
Huh. How about that? Well, we had Clark Kellogg on a week or so ago, and he talked about they were going to go into the bunker and I guess come up with their team of 68. We get Todd on in the next hour. We'll talk back about that more, but they're at the midway point, college basketball. And so CBS kind of wants to get their own bracketology update. They published it on Monday. But according to CBS, there's currently 10 teams from the Big Ten Conference designated as locks. Locks. 10 locks for the NCAA tournament. And in that, they list Indiana. But funny how things can change now. The highest seeded of this group is Maryland. Right now, that changes between Maryland and Michigan State and Illinois. CBS has them at a number 3 seed in the East. Out of where they are, it's not relevant right now. But the Terrapins are currently projected to face number 14 Winthrop from North Carolina. Yeah, that stuff will change too. Penn State is a 4 seed. How about that? Wow. Not only are they going to make the tournament, they're going to get a 4 seed. Michigan State also a 4 seed. Illinois is a 6 seed. Iowa is a 5 seed. I did not. Rutgers and Ohio State are both projected to 7 seeds. Rutgers, how about that? Ohio State, then that's a bounce back for them if they can do that, because their season was heading to the toilet. Michigan's projected as an 8 seed. Indiana and Wisconsin are both projected as 9 seeds right now. I actually think that if Indiana gets in, that is exactly where they will end up, as a 9 seed in the West region. And that's exactly where CBS has them. They have them in an 8-9 game in the West. And let me tell you, there cannot be any more mediocrity than to be listed as an 8-9 seed in the West region. That is the epitome of mediocrity. Now, a while back, Michigan had a suspension of Xavier Simpson. No reason was given. That reason came out. I wish Todd was on here to talk about this. He wrecked the Michigan athletic director's family car. It was the athletic director's wife. Why is he driving the athletic director's wife's car? That's a great question. And I'd sure like to know. Jake, anything on that? Is that just all? Jake just sent this to me. That's wow. I'm not saying there's anything salacious, but I'm just saying, what the hell is a basketball player doing driving the athletic director's wife's car? This is like 1950 stuff, man. It's like we're watching what's the movie? Animal House. Blutowski suspended for driving what was the dewormer's wife's car. Unbelievable. Wow. That's something.
It doesn't say why, but it kind of seems to me like that's not really something the NCAA would look fondly upon.
I would not imagine so. No, and for the exact reasons why we're talking right now. Why the hell is he driving the athletic director's wife's car? That's the first thing that comes up. Matt Painter played college ball from 89 to 93. So he's exactly in Todd's era. As a matter of fact, I think we've heard Todd say that the reason he ended up in Indiana is because Matt Painter went to Purdue. So there you go. Nice series about the state of basketball in Indiana. Highlighted Pleasantville High School gym that was just restored back in 2014. This is from Tim. I'm not sure what he's talking about. But so there's a nice series about college or about the state of basketball in Indiana somewhere. Not sure where that is, but thanks a lot for the text. But yeah, that's that Xavier Simpson thing, man. That's wild. Wow. Simpson initially told officers his name was Jeff Jackson. Hello, Jeff Jackson Simpson. And that he was walking down South Forest Avenue when he noticed the crashed vehicle, Ann Arbor police said. My, oh my, look, there's a crash car. Officers recognized Simpson as the team's point guard. However, he was given a traffic citation for driving too fast for conditions per Dodge. Wait a minute. So he's lied to police. He's given a false identification. He gave a false report. And all he gets is a citation for driving too fast. Simpson, a senior, sat for his team's 79-68 win over Nebraska. Oh, wow. They suspended him for the Nebraska game. He returned for Michigan's win against Rutgers 4 days later. There is no way that story ends there. There is no way that story ends there. That is, what are you kidding me? I need answers. Why the hell was he driving the athletic director's wife's car? I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. He was going to the grocery store for Michigan's athletic director's wife. I'm sure that's what was going on. That sounds plausible, right? It's something, all right. Ronnie Walker entered we talked about this a little bit yesterday because it broke during the show. Ronnie Walker entering Indiana the transfer portal, called it the trade portal, from Indiana football team, running back. It's kind of a loss. He played quite a bit, played a lot he was great in pass protection, but I think he wants to play more. Yeah, Indiana looking to end a 5-game losing streak to Purdue. Indianapolis Star had a piece talking about once icy relationship between Bob Knight and IU thawing out. And I don't want to put a cold rag on this, but, I mean, let's be realistic, people. Unfortunately, Coach Knight is not in a place today where he has been mentally. And fortunately, he has forgotten a lot. I believe he has forgotten his anger for Indiana, which is fortunate because it's allowing things to happen. So, but we'll see. I mean, but it certainly sells papers. It certainly sells papers. No doubt about that. We got plenty to get to here on the program. Tom Brew's going to join us in the next hour. Todd Leary will be back with us, hopefully. Stay tuned. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Larry from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this.
Time gets tough. No, they get tougher.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins. Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you here on this Friday, February 7th. Hope you had a great week, ready for the weekend. Try to get you headed in that direction. Joining us now, Tom Brew from Sports Illustrated Indiana. Thomas, how's it going?
It's going good, Jim. Happy Friday to you, and really looking forward, obviously, to a huge basketball game on Saturday when Indiana and Purdue get together. Really looking forward to what should be a pretty incredible game, although with those two teams, you just have absolutely no idea how they're going to show up.
Yeah, because that's a fact. Both of these teams have had a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde appearance this season, and Indiana has just done that, period. And then Purdue, of course, road and home wins. They are a gigantic killer team at home, and then they go on the road, and they like to drop an egg. But, man, what a beating they put on Iowa the other night.
Yeah, they sure did. I was there. I mean, obviously, still writing a lot of Purdue stories from my sister side up there. So I've seen a lot of this Purdue team, and it's just amazing how good they are at home. I mean, they just like the Wednesday night game with Iowa was as close to a perfect basketball game that I've seen a college team ever play. I mean, they made 19 threes, which is one thing. If you have crazy hot shooting nights, that those things are going to happen. But they scored 61 points in the first half. And there had been 9 games this year where they hadn't scored 61 or less, all the entire games. But even more amazing to me, at one point, with like 3 minutes to go in the first half, they had 13 assists and 0 turnovers. I mean, they just literally pretty much every time down they scored, because even when they missed shots, they were just destroying Iowa on the boards, which doesn't normally happen to Iowa. They had 8 offensive rebounds in the first half, scored 6 times off of that. And because a lot of those were kickback threes, on those 6 offensive rebound possessions, they got 15 points out of it. So I mean, they were just that good. But I've written about it, and it's on my Purdue site, but I'm going to share it with my Meet the Opponent stuff today. Purdue's had 5 home games like that, and then on the road in their next game, they're 0-4, and they've shot a combined 14% from 3 in those 4 losses. I mean, they're just night and day, home and road, and that's hopefully a good sign for Indiana. But you just always wonder when that trend's going to end too.
Yeah, because looking over some numbers ESPN put out using BPI, I was talking earlier that it seems a more critical game for Indiana from a percentage standpoint. If Indiana wins this game, they give Indiana a 71% chance of making the tournament, while if they lose, only a 52%. For Purdue, they have a higher percent shot to make the tournament if they lose than if Indiana wins this game. 82% to make it if they lose, with 91 if they are able to win this game. So while Purdue does not have the record Indiana has, and people will say, the resume is not quite as good. Actually, it kind of is, and they're kind of quietly moving back up the NCAA road.
Well, yeah, I mean, Purdue's resume to me is just as good, if not better, than Indiana's, because they played just a much better non-conference schedule. They
have a lot better wins.
They beat Virginia when they were number 5 in the country and unbeaten. They've beaten Michigan State when they were number 5 in the country. They have those great wins at home. Now, obviously, they've lost a lot of games on the road, so that's the overall record balances out. But I think those numbers are kind of factoring what happens down the road too. And as bunched up as this Big Ten is, you just simply cannot lose home games. And that's why letting that Maryland game slip away a few weeks back was huge for Indiana, because that at that time they had they just been able to pull out that last minute against Maryland, they would have had the best overall record in the Big Ten at that time, but then losing that game and then, going on the road and losing 2 more. Now, all of a sudden you're in the middle of a 3-game losing streak, and it puts absolute must win status on this game, because you just, you're going to get your best shot from Iowa on Wednesday after they got embarrassed. So there are chances of losing more home games, but then there are also, you cannot count on Indiana to win a road game in the Big Ten until they've proven otherwise. I mean, they only have the one Big Ten road win at Nebraska, and it's at Nebraska. So this is huge. I mean, they absolutely have to beat Purdue on Saturday, and for two reasons, Jim. One, it certainly helps Indiana a lot, but I think it's very possible that the last of the Big Ten tournament slots will come down to either Indiana or Purdue. So I think having a win against them in a head-to-head situation will be a good thing. And of course, we got a late February game up there still too.
Yeah, because if I look at the standings and around Indiana right now, Michigan right below them, Ohio State right above them. They've split with Ohio State already. They have to go to Michigan, or is it the opposite way?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Yep. Indiana still goes to Michigan. Yes.
Yeah, they got to go to Michigan, and Michigan doesn't come to Bloomington. So
No.
that's you talk about that. It's going to get so close on who gets in and who doesn't get in.
Right. I mean, I think, obviously, Northwestern and Rutgers aren't factors, but, the other 12 still are. I feel like Wisconsin and Minnesota are going to start to kind of fall by the wayside from a tournament standpoint, and then if that means, 10 Big Ten teams, to me, Ohio State and Michigan are still sort of on the march. It's like I don't count on Ohio State going 3-6 to finish the season. I mean, I think they're just, that good of a team that went through their little funk, and now I think they will play better down the stretch. Michigan, that was huge for them to go to New York and beat Rutgers at Rutgers, just to sort of get that win, that quality win away from Ann Arbor. I mean, I still think all those teams are going to be so bunched together, that it's going to be hard. And, the Big Ten is good and it is deep, but, you just can't always count on a selection committee saying, yeah, we'll give you 10 bids. It's just, so if they only get 8 or 9, then does that, it could very well come down to Indiana or Purdue being that last team in or out.
Absolutely. And then after this Purdue game, people don't forget, while it's still not until next Thursday, but then Indiana follows this up with another home game, but against Iowa, the team that Purdue destroyed. But that Iowa team, they're a pretty damn good team.
They are. And Luka Garza's a beast. I mean, what got lost, Wednesday night in that game, even though they lost by 36 points, Garza was unstoppable. He had 26 points, and Purdue, who's got good big guys and can guard big guys, they had no answer for him. He's a weapon. He's big. He can score inside. He can take people out on the 3-point line. He's a handful. And and plus, but you know what I said, Jim? I said the same thing about Michigan State, a month ago, because they had gone to Purdue and got beat by 29, and I was firmly convinced that Michigan State was going to come into Bloomington with their hair on fire, and Indiana beat them anyway. So I think you can't necessarily take that judgment that Iowa will come in here roaring, because Indiana, for as much as we've been critical of this team for various things through the course of the year, they have been very good at home. I mean, you take away 1 minute of a Maryland game, and I thought they played 30 minutes of really good basketball in that game. And they played 30 minutes of really good basketball against Arkansas and let it slip away at the end. They've been very good at home. So and that's why this week is critical. And as far as I'm concerned, they cannot lose a home game. They have to beat Purdue and Iowa this week, and they have to beat Penn State and Wisconsin and Minnesota down the stretch.
Yeah, and it's something that I know that they can do, but it's going to come up to who really wants to finish this season strong, because we've seen an Indiana team that's kind of struggled. They've lost their identity, and it is time. It is right now time to get that back, or I'm afraid if they don't get it back now, it'll be too late.
Well, I think, part of that problem has just been the road games. That's been an issue. I think the biggest thing that could have ever happened for this Indiana team was to have a week off this week, because they get their legs back a little bit, and for shooters, that means a lot. I think the sense of urgency sort of kicks in where they can catch their breath and realize how important this is now. And, and they're there. And it's like you said, they have played well at home. So to me, just win 2 this week, just go from there, and obviously it starts with Saturday. It's like, there's no sense in even looking ahead to Iowa. I mean, it's all about the Purdue Boilermakers on Saturday. And, just with all the atmosphere around it too, my guys, I'm class of 1982. So I'm looking forward to seeing, that Indiana 1980 team at halftime too, and sharing some great memories with them this weekend too.
Word that Gene Cady is going to be at the ball game. A lot of former players at the ball game. A lot of anticipation for this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've sort of on my I'm not talking about Bob Knight at Assembly Hall rant still too. So he shows up, he'll show up. But I still don't think he will. But it's just going to be great to have those 80 guys around, because just getting ready to post a story on that group here in just a little bit. And that was just the headline of my story is it's the most forgotten great team at Indiana, because what they did that year was incredible. And, the only time, Purdue and Indiana ever played in the NCAA tournament, that was the year Purdue got them. And, but it was a tremendous team. And Mike Woodson is still, one of my all time favorite, Indiana players. I know I'm dating myself at 61 years old there, but, Mike Woodson was a tremendous player, and still have wonderful memories of his great career at Indiana.
Yeah, that team, it was the next year they went on to win the national championship, of course. But even that next season, they didn't start off so well.
Well, they were preseason number one in the country, and they lost some games early, but 3 of them were the top 5 teams. And then Woodson got hurt. He had major back surgery in December and had been playing through it. And then they sort of lost their leader when he went out, and then they lost 4 more after that. But that's, to me, one of the greatest stories ever told. They were 7-5 in the Big Ten, and Woodson comes back from major back surgery, and they win 6 games in a row, including beating 4 teams that they were either tied or behind in the standings. And then they were, it was a showdown game with number 9 ranked Ohio State, last game of the year at Assembly Hall for the Big Ten championship, and they won it. And to me, and something that will never ever happen again. Mike Woodson was named Big Ten Player of the Year that year, and he only played in 6 games. That's how great he was.
Wow. That's amazing. That is an amazing stat. Holy cow. And then, of course, Purdue's team that year would go on to only their second ever and the last Final Four appearance that they have made with Joe Barry Carroll and that crew.
Yep. Yeah, that's how good the Big Ten was that year. Ohio State was a top 5 team pretty much all year long. And then Iowa and Purdue both made the Final Four that year. Both of them lost in the semis, but to have 2 Big Tens in the Final Four that year, and of course Indiana, what could have been, and of course we wrote a whole 3 chapters of that. Terry Hutchins and I, when we did our book Missing Banners, about the years Indiana could have won a title but didn't. The 1980 group is in there, and just a ton of great interviews and stories with those guys, and it's going to be great to catch up with them this weekend, because when Terry and I did that book, pretty much all the interviews I did with the 80s guys were on the phone. I didn't really get it. I got to do a lot of the 75 guys and the 92 and 93 guys in person, but I didn't get to do much of the 80 guys in person at all. So it's going to be fun to see them all again.
If we'll have plenty of time to talk about this, but if Indiana were to lose this game, the chatter will ratchet up about Archie Miller, no doubt. About this team. How much added pressure will that add to the season if that happens?
None. Archie Miller is not getting fired. We can talk about it all. It's not going to happen.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. I'm just saying the chatter, how much it will ratchet up, and how much pressure.
Well, the chatter
there's still going to be pressure
up. But the guy on Twitter with 6 followers who says Archie Miller should be fired will certainly be saying that on Saturday night if that's the case.
No doubt,
but,
doubt.
There's just with that contract the way it is. They're not buying him out this year. It's not going to happen. And I think with the change in athletic directors, I think Archie Miller, and it's just my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I firmly believe that there's no reason to have any talk about Archie Miller's status at Indiana until the end of the 2021 season, because Fred Glass is not going to fire him going out the door, and the new guy is not going to fire him walking into the door. So, I think Archie Miller is here at the very least through 2021 without any question. And I know I'm probably in the minority there, and it's, but that's, I just feel like that's the way it is. They still owe him $14 million. Nobody's going to write that check.
No, he's not going anywhere after this season, but the pressure will be on him because there's, to me, next, if that is the case and they were not to make the tournament this year, next year would be a one and done for him under the new AD. If he did not succeed, I think he'd be gone after next season.
Well, that I would agree with. I mean, if they go 5 years in a row without making the tournament, that I would agree with. But like, to me, to me, I still think, and I wrote it last week, I mean, I do think they're going to win their last 5 home games. I mean, it's, if you're good enough to beat Michigan State and Florida State and Ohio State at home, these 5 teams are not as good as any of those 3 in my book. And I think, if they win these 5 and they're in the tournament, I mean, that to me is a huge improvement from last year. And, it's just like, I can't fault this team too much for losing on the road because every single team is doing it. When they, you watch them lose in an ugly game at Penn State, and then the very next night you'll watch Tom Izzo losing around the road at Wisconsin. It's the same thing. I mean, everybody's going through the same thing in this league from top to bottom. I mean, even the best teams in this league are playing like garbage on the road, and it's just tough environments and teams wanting to hold serve at home, and it's been an ugly year for that. So it's I think as long as I don't think they have a cushion on the home games. I do think they need to win all 5 because I'm just presuming they're going to lose all 4 road games.
Absolutely. Tom Brew, appreciate you joining us, man.
All right. Have a great time. I'll see you Saturday.
Absolutely. There's Tom Brew from Sports Illustrated Indiana joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Friday. We've got a little more to go before we finish the show out. Stay tuned. We're back with more right after this.
My sweet home, Chicago.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins. Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here on this Friday, TGIF, February 7th. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Big game this weekend for the Hoosiers as the Boilermakers come to town. 2 o'clock tilt at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. You know what that means. Live from Yogi's after the game with Todd Leary happens approximately just after 4. Come on out if you're in the area. If not, you can catch it on Facebook Live. We will be there. And we are expecting a longer than normal show for this one. We are expecting special guests for this one. We normally don't have guests on, but this is going to be kind of a special deal. We don't even know who all. I do know some names. Well, I'm not going to throw them out there yet, but special guests. So make sure you're listening or watching. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. Tim hits us up on the text line. It says it's Hickory night. At the Pacers game, they will wear their white jerseys and honor Knight and Keedy and also celebrate the best sports movie ever made, Hoosiers. I should have gotten Angelo Pizzo on, man. He's a friend of mine who wrote Hoosiers. Should have had him on today. I didn't realize that. Ryan from Michigan says, do you guys watch The Journey on BTN? The most recent episode was really good. I have seen some of them, but I'll be honest with you, I'm usually watching a game, so I haven't had time. Garza Smith, Borderlands story's pretty cool. He also says it's a must-win game for IU tomorrow in men's basketball. Ryan, you are correct. So feel free to hit us up on the text line, 812-269-6367. Indiana taking on Purdue tomorrow in a must-win game for the Hoosiers. Yeah, I've talked a lot about that number that ESPN and the BPI put out, and it really strikes me that even if Purdue loses this game, they have an 82% chance of making the tournament. If Indiana wins the game, they only have a 71% chance. That's nuts. Tim says he's not going to be tuning in for the special show tomorrow. His family's taking him out for his birthday. Well, thanks a lot, Tim. Happy freaking birthday to you. Just kidding. Happy birthday.
The good thing is you can always catch the replay on Indiana Sports Beat Facebook page.
There you go, Tim. There you go. Or you can also catch it anywhere you catch a podcast because we send it out that way as well. But yeah, I'm like, man, it's gonna be nuts. I think Bloomington is going to be just hopping tomorrow. This is an ESPN telecast. Dick Vitale's in the house on the call. He hadn't been to an IU game for a minute. We had him on the show earlier this week. Pretty awesome for us to have that. But yeah, it's just going to be a big deal. You got the 1980 Big Ten champions in town, a lot of other players in town. Gene Katie's going to be there. A lot of questions. People asking. Bob Knight's showing up. Who knows? You heard some people think that it'll happen if it happens. We haven't talked a lot about it. No point in it. We'll see what happens. Did you know Chris Beard and Matt Painter both were down checking out Trey Kaufman at Silver Creek last night as he scored 29 points? The word on the street is Purdue has the inside track to Trey Kaufman. I don't know that Indiana has put a lot of interest into him. It just doesn't seem like they have. He's part of that vaunted 2021 class in the state of Indiana. Includes Christian Lander, Caleb First. Trying to think of who all's on that. Who are some of those? Luke Goody, Caleb First, Trey Patterson, Bryce Hopkins. Max Christie, the kid out of Blake Wesley out of South Bend. There's a lot of talent in this state next year. Todd's not with us, but he did tell me that Will Leary was the leading scorer for Carmel last night with 11 big points. That's what it takes to be the leading scorer. He's talked about how they run a very, very slow, methodical offense. But they lost to Lawrence North. But congratulations to Will Leary for leading those guys. We talked earlier, too, about Xavier Simpson, the Michigan player who was suspended last week. You weren't told why, as you usually aren't, but it came out. Not only was he driving, but he wrecked the car of the wife of the athletic director of Michigan. Why was he driving Michigan's athletic director's wife's car? Yeah, I had no idea. That's a great story in and of itself. Look forward to hearing about that. But it's just funny how things work out, shake out, stories shake out. Mark D'Antonio, has been a lot of talk about him this week. He, quote unquote, resigned. He did get a nice $4.3 million payment January 1st, though. So that's a very nice, that cushions your fall a lot.
Some people get watches, some people get millions of dollars.
Hey, look at Louisville fired Petrino. Bobby Petrino was their football coach 2 years ago. They paid him, $18 million to leave? To leave! How much did at Florida State, 1 year flash in the pan, former at Western Kentucky, went to Oregon. Golly, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but you know who I'm talking about. He got paid millions upon millions of dollars to leave, to not coach us. Here is a lifetime-changing amount of money to do nothing. Willie Taggart. I wish somebody would offer me $1 million to just shut up, do nothing. I'd do it. I promise you. If you want to get rid of me, send in $1 million. It'll be done. It'll certainly happen. Indiana is a bubble team. I don't know that people want to acknowledge that or not, but when we look at those numbers that I've talked about with the BPI, with Purdue and all that earlier, that makes Indiana a bubble team. When you have a team like Purdue coming in with a lesser record and they're coming into your place and a loss by them carries a higher percentage to make the tournament than a win by you, you're a bubble team. Because Purdue is barely not a bubble team. That makes Indiana a bubble team already. Now, they can change that. They win against Purdue. They win against Iowa. That changes in a heartbeat. They are no longer a bubble team. They are firmly off the bubble. And at that moment, I think they're firmly in the tournament no matter what happens for the rest of the season. While I doubt that they're going to lose the rest of their games anyway. They'll have more home games. So Indiana just needs to split these two games. They should win them both because they're home games, but you can't expect anything against a great team like Iowa. I know they cannot lose to Purdue. If they lose to Purdue, I'll say it right now. If they lose to Purdue, Indiana misses the tournament yet again. Period. If they beat Purdue, I think they're in. Because of the remaining schedule, they'll have enough wins at home. They should beat Minnesota, Wisconsin at home. I don't know if that's Todd and Larry trying to call us right now or not, maybe. Can you hear that, Jake? That's good. Todd may be trying to call us. I'm not certain. But hopefully he got all his stuff taken care of now. We'll get him back on here so it's not just me talking. But, Indiana loses this game. They don't make the tournament. People don't want to hear that. And I understand, but it's just a fact. You've got to win. You've got to win, and you've got to pass the eye test. And they've done that, then they've not done it. And this is a tough conference. And unfortunately, they're getting a lot of credit for being in the Big. You get credit for playing in the Big Ten and playing in these teams. So, are we close to a break? And was that him? All right. Well, let's go ahead and hit a break, and when we come back, we'll have Todd Leary back with us. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Todd Leary has returned from the dead like Lazarus.
Did you miss me? Did you miss me?
Jake, I think he's talking to you.
I did because I had to talk.
Jake had to talk.
Oh, man. That's it. Man, now I got to go back and listen. I want to hear that.
And I had nobody to talk to about Xavier Simpson of Michigan getting suspended because he wrecked the car of the wife of the athletic director at Michigan.
I mean, where do we even start with? Unless they give you a million. That's one of those stories. They better give a gazillion details as to why he would be driving that car. Otherwise, it's just free reign for us to come up with our own thoughts and guesses as to why he would be driving that car.
I cannot imagine a reason for him to be driving the athletic director's wife's car. I'm just sitting here, I'm like going, what? This ain't high school, man. I wouldn't be driving my high school athletic director's wife's car, much less college. I'm like, what?
You would if you were in relations with her.
What?
Who said that?
What? Beep, beep, beep.
Tom Brew said that. Tom Brew, daggone you.
Man.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Like, and that car is probably provided by the university. Probably going to be my next guess. You know, I mean, everybody. Just remember that. I remember.
My God, I didn't think of that.
I remember back when we would play at the University of Michigan, and they had the Fab Five, and when we would sit on the bus after a game, the home team, they would get showered and dressed. We always had to wait on a certain coach, and he would just take his time. So we would be sitting on the bus sometimes for up to an hour waiting on him to come out. And we would watch the players one by one walk out and get in a brand new Ford Explorer and a brand new Ford Mustang and a brand new Ford, whatever it would be. And I mean, every one of those guys had a Ford car. Given where it was where they are up near Detroit, you flip through their pregame magazines, you flip through everything, and it all is car dealership after car dealership. Obviously, we know the deal with Chris Webber taking $650,000 from Ed, whatever it was, Ed Martin or whoever that was a long time ago. Car dealers are their big sponsors. So I'm just guessing as the AD's cars are provided by one of those dealerships would be my guess.
Yeah, that usually happens.
Yep.
That'll be fun to see.
So that's a university car alongside how do you get a 1-game suspension out of that?
Great question. Hey, we've been talking about the Indiana is a bubble team. Whether people want to acknowledge or not, right now they are a bubble team. In my opinion, because of the sheer fact that the metrics show that, and it's not a fact, of course, but the sheer fact that Purdue has a better chance to make the tournament with a loss in this game than Indiana does with a win.
Well, that's BS. That's BS.
It's actually not BS. It's from they go back through all the years, and this stuff keeps adding on metrics and who ends up making it and who doesn't. From the eye standpoint, I understand we would not think that, but it truly is because it puts so much more weight on a road win than the home win.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm also going to say, like, it's not just you and I thinking that on the eye test. I mean, it's all of the other, Joe Lenardi's and of the world. I mean, they're putting IU right now seated higher than Purdue, so they're not looking at it in the same way those, statistics and analytics and everything.
Actually, IU's the lowest seeded team in the Big Ten.
Well, they weren't 2 days ago.
And they won't be. They probably won't be 2 days from now.
Right. But in saying they're a bubble team, yes, I don't think there's any question. Indiana's a bubble team. So is Iowa. So is Rutgers.
Iowa's not.
So is Wisconsin.
Rutgers is not. Wisconsin is. I agree with you on Wisconsin. I think Purdue is. I think Purdue is.
Why don't you think Iowa is?
Iowa's in the tournament. There's no doubt. They're just too good.
Not true. That is
absolutely.
Not true.
I guarantee you they're in the tournament. Well, you look at their seeding. They're seeded like 6 or something. You're not going to go from a 6 seed in February to out of the tournament.
Ohio State could possibly go from number 2 in the country to out of the tournament. North Carolina is going to go
rankings. That's rankings. That was early on in the season. I'm talking about February. We're in February now. Not November.
So let's just analyze something real quick. Of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 remaining games that Iowa has, they have to go to Indiana and to Minnesota. They could easily lose both of those. They have Ohio State that comes to their place. They'll probably win, but they could lose it. They go to Michigan State. Penn State comes to their place. They'll definitely lose one of those two. Then they've got Purdue that comes back in there. They're going to beat Purdue's butt after what Purdue just did to them. And they finish the year at Illinois. They could have 5 more losses out of those 8 games.
That's not going to knock them out of the tournament, though.
They're going to be 16 and they're going to be 18 and 12. I'm saying they're a bubble team. Iowa's my second favorite team in the Big Ten. I think they're the second best team in the Big Ten. I'm just telling you, Indiana is a bubble team. Yes, totally agree. I think there's 6 bubble teams in the Big Ten. I really do. And I think Iowa could play themselves into being a bubble team. I think they're the second best team in the league. I think Michigan State could be a bubble team. I know that sounds ridiculous and stupid, but
I'm just going to nod my head yes and not say a word. I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to nod my head. Mike DeCourcy, our good friend who comes on quite often with the BTN, of course, Sporting News, senior writer for Sporting News with BTN, but also with Fox. He's a bracket analyst for them now. Let's hear what he had to say. He had a little piece out. Well, it'd be good if you can hear it.
Heavy question for a discussion that's usually focused on how teams are selected and seeded for the NCAA tournament. But I don't mean why am I here in the existential sense. I mean, why am I here as a bracket analyst talking to you about the complexities of the NCAA tournament selection process? Why isn't the process simple? Why do we need a committee of men and women from NCAA member schools to select and seed the field instead of letting a computer handle the entire process? That was a question posed to me on Twitter by someone who didn't like where I placed their team on my most recent bracket projection. And the answer is simple, because there is no perfect computer system.
There is no perfect computer system. Exactly. That's why the computers don't seed the teams. The committee does. They use the computers. They use this information, but it's used. It's not like they're slotted. The computers are not slotting people. But they certainly have used a lot of this information.
When those committees sit down there in that hotel in Indianapolis on that March Sunday afternoon, they're all weekend long, they're going to use an enormous amount of all of these numbers and analytics and computer programs and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, they're going to take all that information and then they use the eye test. And that's what, that's where you'll see. Yeah, I'm a great example of saying this. My freshman year at Indiana, we were 18-10, and in all senses of everything, I really thought we were not going to make the NCAA tournament. We were 8-10 in the Big Ten, and at that point in time, losing records in your conference play, generally you didn't get in. This is 1990, so truly, I believe the only reason we got in is because of Coach Knight. Because of Coach Knight's record in the NCAA, because of the committee, and their respect for what they think Coach Knight could do with his team in the NCAA tournament. So the eye test got us in. And I believe that's just a Coach Knight example. I believe that happens with Coach Izzo. I believe that happens with a lot of different programs across the country. And when you get a program like Iowa, I don't think they're going to get as high a look as in the eye test as now. They're a bad example this year because they have probably the best player in the country. So you get a team like Minnesota as for an example, they're probably not going to get the nod. And if there's a 50-50 between them and another team, and that other team passes the eye test better, that team is going to either get a higher seed or get in. And I do believe it's that subjective to where. Or that objective to where they can make those determinations. And I think that does happen a lot.
I agree with you. It certainly does. It certainly does. A lot of high school action still going on out in the state. We talked a little bit. Kevin Brockway was on earlier, and he had a nice piece on Braden Bailey, Damon Bailey's son, who plays down at Bedford North Lawrence as a senior. But tomorrow they will be playing against Evansville Memorial, and Pat Graham's 2 sons. His one is a senior, one's a sophomore. But how about that? 2 former teammates, IU teammates, their sons going at it tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you just, you think about and dream about, as a kid when you're here playing as a college student. I mean, you think that your kids are, if you have boys, they're going to grow up and play basketball, and just a cool thing for both of them. And they're both involved in the program. Damon stayed really closely involved with Bedford, and obviously Pat is an assistant for Evansville Memorial. So yeah, it'll just be a fun little battle. But both of those guys are probably about as tight to the vest as you can get when it comes to former players. Like Pat will play it down like it's not that big a deal, and Damon will play it down like it's not that big a deal. And they want it to be about their kids and all that. I think, last year Memorial was having a much more successful season than what they are this year. And Bedford probably has the upper hand on that game going into it, but you never know. I mean, that's why they play.
Yep, that is, man. It'll be interesting to see how that goes down. So your son Will, I mentioned earlier that he was the leading scorer with a whopping 11 points against Lawrence North last night.
Yeah, when your team only scores 37, nobody's going to have very many.
Yeah, but so you've had 3 sons go through high school basketball. Did you not ever get that chance? Did that never line up? And it has to be a perfect line up perfectly, but did that ever happen? You get your sons play against some friends?
Yeah, no, in AAU they do a lot because, you play a lot more games and you go to some of the same tournaments and stuff like that. Damon's son, Brayton, had played in some of the same tournaments, but we never played against each other, team versus team. But we ended up being at a lot of the same tournaments and seeing each other. That's actually where I catch up with him more than anywhere else. But, it never worked out that way. We've never had – we got guys with different ages and all that. And, I know Brian Evans started out with 3 daughters and now he has a son also, but it just time-wise and age-wise, it's never worked out.
Unfortunately, but so we'll see how that goes out tomorrow. We'll have to keep track and look how that goes next week. And it'd be kind of interesting. And I think that game's at Bedford in like the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, I think you and I looked that up earlier.
I think it was at like 2:00, wasn't it?
Is it? Yeah, same time as the IU game. That's why, neither of those guys are going to be able to come back. They've got some cool things going on at the IU game tomorrow at halftime, which I will be pleasantly excited to take part in. And those guys, unfortunately, weren't able to attend because of their game. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun time at halftime tomorrow if you're at Assembly Hall.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of excitement tomorrow. Indiana taking on Purdue. There's that. It's a must-win game for Indiana. It's that.
Sure is.
Gene Katie will be in the house. There's that. There's a lot of former players going to be there. There's that. The 1980 Big Ten champion team will be there. There's just a lot going on tomorrow. Gene Katie and Bob Knight are supposedly being honored by the Pacers tomorrow night. So all kinds, and we haven't talked about it, and purposely
they're both being honored at the Pacer game, right?
Right.
But they're not going to honor Gene Katie at the IU game, right?
What are you going to honor him for? Losing the 1980 Big Ten championship while you went to the Final Four?
Yeah. I'll tell you this. For a fact that this is what I love about Indiana fans. As much as, and believe me, I have thrown things at the TV before. I wanted to punch Gene Katie so bad, so many times over the years with him going crazy on the sidelines. But the pure respect for him, when they show him tomorrow on the big screen, he will get a standing ovation because Indiana fans know over the years how much fun and excitement and back and forth they've had against his teams. And he will be honored tomorrow at Assembly Hall. I just bet he will be.
And he should be. I mean,
he should be. Yeah, no doubt. No
doubt.
He's
the
awesome.
Enjoyment people got for throwing. If you can make somebody throw something at the TV, you've done a damn good job. Yep, that is what you're supposed to do because you're supposed to make 50% of the people happy, and you want 50% of the people to not like you.
My mom will tell you I earned it early in life. Like I would throw things at the TV and get so mad at Purdue and Gene Katie and their teams and the referees and everything. I started out this way.
Yeah, it's but it'll be cool to see him in there. He's definitely got the hairdo has definitely changed.
Hey, I learned years ago. I don't make fun of people.
That's not. Well, I'm going to make fun of that hairdo he used to.
You can. I just don't get mad when I don't partake.
No, the Keedy comb over though from before, that was a great one. It was chiseled, man. It was like they brought in an artist and really they went to work and crafted this thing. Curved it around, but lots going on tomorrow, man. Lots going on out at the hall tomorrow. But if you can't be at the hall, and whether you can or not, you need to be after the game with Todd Leary live from Yogi's. because that's where we're going to be. We're expecting a longer than normal show.
It's not just going to be Todd Leary tomorrow.
Guests.
A lot of the 1980 Big Ten championship team will be there.
Do you have anybody that you know is going to come over that we're going to have on?
You know, the problem with that is I hate to just say it, because then if they don't show up, then people will feel like they let us down.
They will. Well, that's because they will have let us down.
You can look at the picture that's circulated online of the 1980 national or Big Ten championship team, which a lot of those guys ended up being on the 81 national championship team, and a lot of those guys will be there.
One name I have not heard mentioned, Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, he won't be there. I don't think he'll be at the game.
That would be a shocker if he showed up, huh?
No, not really. I mean, he spent a lot of time in Indiana. I think based on what I've heard so far, I don't think he is available to be there.
Right.
But I know Randy Whitman will be, and he was one of my all-time favorites. So
we're going to have some fun tomorrow on the show.
Randy.
The long story short, we're going to have a great show tomorrow. I think it's going to go long. I don't even know how long. We're going as long as we've got people to talk to. We're going to go. I hope it's a great game. I hope it's a win for Indiana. So we got something pleasant to talk about there.
Yeah, no kidding.
But there should be so much to talk about. History, players. We've got a ton to do. If you can get to Yogi's tomorrow, you better get there early because it's going to be packed. It's always packed because Todd Leary's there, but it's going to be really packed.
It's always packed because of the mini corn dogs, but it's going to be extra packed tomorrow because we're going to have some special guests.
Be there or be square, man. Be there or be square. That's going to pretty much wrap it up for us here on this Friday edition of Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle and Leary on this February 7th. Tomorrow, make sure you're with us after the game, live from Yogi's. If you can't be there, you can join us on Facebook Live and participate because it's going to be a great one, man. I'm looking forward to it. I cannot thank all the great guests we had on this week, Kevin Brockway, Tom Brew on today, but, of course, Dick Vitale, I can't even remember who all we've had on. We've had so many great guests this week, but it's been a blast, and thanks to everybody. Thanks to Todd, of course. Thanks to Jake for keeping us on the track, and thanks most importantly to you for listening to us here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Make sure you join us tomorrow after the game with Todd Leary. Until then, I'm Jim Boyle. I will see you on the radio.